Join me on an adventure, a literary romp through India. Meet me at the corner of patchouli and chai, where books, cinema, and conversation collide. I'm Lovelace Cook. I'll be your tour guide. Welcome to Bollywood and Books.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So good to see you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I'm very excited.
Same here. Same here.
Oh,
How have you
thank
been?
you. I've been well, thank you, and very healthy, so I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much for
Very nice.
asking.
Very nice.
And how
I shaved
about you?
off my head in the lockdown. I hope that's okay.
I said, well, yeah, no, that's fine. That's great.
I might look a little different.
Oh, you look fine. I'm just delighted to have a chance to talk with you. Have followed you. I have no idea how we got connected on Facebook. Maybe when I was in India, maybe another time. I don't know. We must have a mutual acquaintance.
Yes, I assume there is a friend of mine who's a singer, and he does sing for a few places around Delhi, and we've been in touch for a long time. I pretty much had a similar stint. So he was into singing and I was into dancing, and we banged into each other in one of the inter-college festivals
Yeah.
in one university. And apparently, I missed my bus that night. So we spent the rest of the night waiting for the bus and singing on the road. That's how we got to be friends. And
Oh, what a
so he's the
great
one who's the common one between you and me.
what a great story. For meeting, chance meetings, and all of these things develop, which is extraordinary. I want to make sure I introduce you correctly and pronounce your name correctly. Vishesh?
Yeah,
How do you
I'm Vishesh Azad.
Vishesh? Okay, thank you. And I'm
So
love.
Vishesh stands for special. So Vishesh is special in Hindi, and Azad is freedom.
Wow.
So I've often been called Special Freedom back in school.
I think you know what that is. Well, that's quite profound, and ties in a lot with what I've been looking at in terms of Indian literature and cinema and just travels along the road. I want to get a little bit of background about you, and I know you said you were born in Delhi and uh, you grew up in Mumbai because your dad was in the Bombay film industry. Um, but I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your dad, but I want to hear a little bit about what you grew up with. What was it like growing up in your family? Like, what was a typical day or morning like, or evening?
I'm glad that what happened in the recent lockdown is my dad turned 75 last year, and I have been wanting to make a film on him. It's like a film on a filmmaker, because
Yes.
I've always been through that whole lens of you're a filmmaker's son, so are you half of what he is? Because I went through film school, he didn't go through any film school. So yes, probably I can give you quite a little story out on it. I grew up in Bombay. I think my eyes open and I remember my early days in Bombay, which is a very fast moving city compared to Delhi. Delhi has a lot of time for celebration. Delhi has a lot of time to sit and chit chat and all of that. Delhi believes to take it slow, but Bombay is very professional. You can party till 4 in the morning, but 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you're on the set doing your job. So in that city, when I started to realize that I'm in a family where my father's a filmmaker, and I was studying in a convent school called Sacred Heart Boys High School in Khar, and I was among the best. I was uh, uh, I was a little into sports. I was a lot into music and dancing. They say it's in the genes. I didn't quite believe that at that point of time because I wanted to test it. I didn't want to take it without any confrontation. So in my growing up years, I had my own uh, incidents with uh, getting a tune out on a situation, or being very open and confident in a crowd and dancing. They tell me when I was really small, I went down to a hotel with my father where a lot of film stars were dancing, and I pulled my father and said I want to dance. And I was just in the middle of a lot of film stars, just doing my thing, not caring about anybody. That's when he realized that maybe he should put me into a dance school, and he probably put me into a dance school. So dancing was my thing. I grew up believing I'm going to go to Broadway or some place like that. And I could really put my headphones on at that time and dance on a bus stop. I didn't care about the world. That's one thing I took very honestly with me. I didn't quite like, or probably if I can say, not appreciate the film story around me, because my father was never there. In reality, he was working very hard uh, uh, to make it where he was. Though he was a excellent craftsman in his work as a director, he had a very giving nature, very accommodating nature. Nobody in my entire lifetime has asked me, or for us, have we never seen him shout. So he's a very silent person. I don't know how he could pull that off with on a set of 500 people without shouting. Yeah. And so he was a very silent, accommodating, smiling person who made his way through the film industry, ran out of second year in graduation from Delhi while he was doing theater, because he was infatuated with the film industry. Landed up into Bombay, got into touch with some very big names. V Shantaram is a big name in India, and refused to work with them because they were paying salaries to newcomers. He said, I want to, do something very quickly. I can't get into a bond for 2 years and work with you for a salary. So with all these inhibitions, I was growing up doing my own thing, trying to keep myself away from cinema.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't help being in the middle. I was always there in the local festivals, dancing on stage, or painting, or singing in the Christmas functions at school. And there we are. In my 12th, I was already making some tiny videos with a friend's camera. And but I was very sure I'm not going to get into the film industry, because I had to wake up with him not there and go to sleep with him coming later. That had a bitter feeling to me. And also that he worked for a good 35 years in the industry. He made some good 17, 18 feature films, worked for the Indian government, worked with the Indian Film Censor Board. He's done a bit. I mean, I can say he's done a lot, but he didn't quite get there, right? Personally, in his personal life, he was always struggling. We were in a rented accommodation. So all my growing up years had these things, and I had a fear of this city, that I need to have a very strong financial background to be somebody in this city. It's already a city which is very larger than life. I'm sure, probably through my perspective, any city can be larger than life if you put somebody at that age into that thinking or that spot. Inside, I was bursting with art, but on the outside, I was very scared to do it, to go ahead and do it. I started earning some pocket money right from class 6, and I started paying my own fees, buying my own clothes, buying my own toys, or whatever you want to call it. And 2012 is eventually when my father and my family decided they're going to go back to Delhi, because that's where we belong. And they've spent whatever the lifespan that they wanted to spend in that city. Now they want to go back and have a good life, have a relaxed life. He had joined the Indian Film Censor Board. We came back. I joined the Delhi University, which is a very happening place.
I
And
want
I
to
got
hear
into
about.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
want to hear about that too.
I got into a college called Kirodimal College in Delhi University. This is the place where Amitabh Bachchan is a very iconic star in India, comes from. Uh, if I can say, he is the Marlon Brando of India, right? Uh, with a husky voice and a strong, presence. I was pretty fascinated with the performing arts scene in Delhi. It was bigger than in Bombay, because Bombay everybody is very commercial and confident, but Delhi not everybody is that very commercial and confident in their personality. So I was easy. It was easy for me coming from Bombay. I could easily get into the crowds. I was ragged on every canteen table. and I made a lot of friends on my first day because I could sing, I could dance, I could mimic, I could do this, I could just make fun of myself. And I got into the film society, I got into the theater society of college, I got into the music society of college, I got into the dance society of college. And everybody back home got really worried. Are you going to study or you're just going to do that? I told them that art has a place in me. If I don't have it on my desktop, I'm going to do that in the bus. I'm going to do that on the canteen table. So there's no way I'm going to let go of it because I started to feel a lyricism in my life, in my thinking, in my vocabulary, in my approach towards people. I was musical, I was rhythmic, I had a funny bone. Uh, After a bachelor's in English literature from Kirodimal College, I went on to do a master's in mass communication from Jamia. Jamia University is one of the well-known universities in India for filmmaking. And I got through the interview, and I was making my first film. Again, very shaken. How on earth am I doing this? I always wanted to run away from this. And what am I doing? And it went on to do well. It went to some film festivals, some student film festivals. I got connected to a festival called the Ocean Film Festival, and I featured in the top 50 Asian filmmakers. And I was now getting really worried that 2 years later I need to get a job. And for the fun of it, for the love of it, everything's fine, everything's going crazy. But how am I going to earn out of this? Because I really wanted to relieve my father out of his duties. And so 2007 is when I featured on one of the festivals in India. And I thought that I'm going to make films, I'm not going to stop that. And let's find a parallel way of balancing my act, being responsible and earning for the family as well. Incidentally, I was teaching dance at a dance school near college, and teaching also came very naturally to me. And I got an opportunity to be at a university for a dance competition, and I won that competition. I came out of the backstage and I saw a poster, vacancy for a faculty in scripting. And without a thought, I just went up to the faculty lounge and I knocked and I introduced myself. Hello, my name is Vishesh. And I've seen a poster that talks about you need a person who can teach scripting in film. They said everything's all right, but what's with your look? Why are you in a dance costume? And I told them, no, I'm sorry. I've just been here for a dance event, and I saw that poster. I couldn't stop myself. So they called me over. I got into this place. I started teaching film, and I think that the rest is history. So I've been teaching cinema, I've been teaching photography for close to 12 years now, and I make films for the love of the game. I put them across film festivals. We've done some national award-winning films. I think my cinema is more conversational. Nobody dies or whatever. No gunshots in my movies. It's slightly non-Bollywood, or what we call in India the parallel cinema, the cinema of the common man, where you talk about middles. There is no starts and ends. So that's me. I love to dance. I love to be in the nature, and I find time to do it.
I think I've just been inspired seeing your photos and the little videos on Facebook, and I thought this guy is so comfortable in his own skin, and he is so creative. You exude the creativity in all of these areas. And when I saw a dance clip, there was a short dance clip with your students. I thought, good God, he is really a great dancer. And then you, you, I think that with the creativity, you just called it lyrical or lyricism. You just embody that in your life and what you're doing. I think that's
I think it was
absolutely
my
fantastic.
calling. If
Yeah.
I didn't do that, I would have been that one kid sitting in the corner in school, because I
And
was already going through a lot of, I'm assuming today, a lot in my head as a kid, because I remember people talking to me in a manner saying that your father's a filmmaker, and that's what you do, that's what you're wearing, that's what you carry. So the way people judge you in society, uh, I was almost starting to prepare for it. That my first step when I enter a room, I need to blow the gathering away. I need to be at the center of everything. I need to talk to people. I need to be loud. Today, maybe I think there is maybe there's a little more than needed. There's a little more electricity running in me, but my students enjoy it. They feel that I am their age. They feel they can relate to me when they talk to me about it, and I feel happy that I can reach out to that kind of a audience,
That's
and that's a nice feeling.
I see that. I thought, are you familiar with the Pied Piper who attracts people? I thought this guy, you've got your students going up into the mountains, you're doing all these incredibly exciting things with them, and you have this magnetism that draws your students to you. And that's really obvious to me too from following you. So uh, if you think it's too much electricity, I don't think so. I think it's fantastic.
I had a small stint in a call center in my vacations in my after first year, and I was calling up the US. So obviously I was too fast, and like the US, I was too fast while talking, and I got a pat on my shoulder from my team leader, and he told me, "You got to go slow. You got to go slow. You're too fast, and you're too happy and energetic for the time in the morning. People are going to be relaxed." So that's just part of me. I just tend to forget when I'm enjoying myself.
I think that's incredible. Well, I just was thinking about do you still have the beautiful Royal Enfield motorcycle that you had?
Oh no. So I bought it second hand, right? It was out of my first salary when I joined the university that I just told you about. And when I went to buy it, my hands were really shaking because I had not held kind of money in my hands ever.
Yeah.
So I gave I gave my money to my friend and asked him to count and give it to the guy. And I bought back home that beast, and I fell in love with it. And it's like, I think it's like a very common story for every teenager. The bike makes the wind on your face makes you feel like you're free. And in my most uh, dark or whatever hard times, I would just be with my bike, keep washing it, keep cleaning it, taking it to places. But 2012 and 14, my father suffered a heart attack and a paralytic attack.
Oh
So I
no.
had to eventually buy a car. So I went on and bought a car, and then I used to get the feeling that I love this thing so much. Uh, this can bring happiness to somebody rather than just standing in my shed. So I went on. I sold it away to another young boy who spray painted it, and he's in my
No.
Facebook list, and he travels to Ladakh, and I'm really happy to see my bike going places.
I, well, I love to see you going places too with the bike, and I'm sorry to hear, that your dad had a heart attack, and that's very frightening, to
It
see
was,
your
yes.
parents when they are embody strength, and then when you see them getting older, and because I'm closer to your dad's age than you are, so I'm not a spring chicken, and that's why I just admire. Think, oh, I wish I could dance like that, and sorry, so I
Well,
dig.
I've equally seen amazing photographs on your profile. You've had, if I can say that, you've had a life one would want to live. Look at you. You've been so energetic yourself.
Thank you, thank you.
And
And here
and
I
the
am.
times I see you traveling and talking about so many places that you've been around in your posts, and the kind of affection you have for people around you, and when you write about things. But I think generally, the world is now getting closer. We are all realizing that uh, we need to be there for each other.
I agree completely, and I think that I've been very concerned because of COVID in India. I have isolated basically. I've been healthy. My brother and sister-in-law both got COVID, and they're okay, but it was a tough time. And I'm looking at India and thinking, oh, when you said you were getting a cold at one point, I just panicked. I thought, oh my gosh, I hope, because we get the news and it sounds terrible. So bear with me a moment. I just thought, tell me a little through coronavirus and the when things shut down throughout the world, we have actually, our worlds, I feel like, have expanded rather than shrunk, because we have an opportunity. Our horizons are much broader as a result of technology, Zoom or whatever method, whatever you're using. Tell me a little bit about how things are in Delhi right now, New Delhi.
Um, Delhi has gone through its second wave. It's now in a much better state right now.
Good.
The point is that the second wave really forced us to think whether things should be in our hands or not. So a lot of us have, if I can say that for Delhi, are now on work from home. If you're talking about COVID, people are making sure that they do the right thing. But the problem here is with the kind of crowd and the kind of the kind of space and the equation of crowds in that space in this city, uh, it tends to get a little dense, and it's difficult for you to be um, to have that social distancing, to be away from people. Also for the cultural nerve inside you to go ahead and just jump and hug people and shake hands and be close to people. The kind of distance has never been there. It's difficult for people to get that into your skin. But the second wave, this time it was visibly there, because you could hear people in your distant circle, in your acquaintance, falling. You could hear people going to the hospital. A very good friend of mine, she's a mother of two, has a very young baby, was away from her children for 14 days, and we used to call her every day, pep her up. She was trying to do her best, sketch and sing, and but we could see her, coughing and gasping for breath. So Delhi has been through its worst. I'm assuming we've learned our lesson, and things are not going to be as bad again, because people are getting vaccinated. A good lot of percentage of people have already been through it, and assuming that we're developing the antibodies. Uh, but COVID has been a great time to shut your doors from society. Look into yourself. A lot of people that I know have now developed the whole idea of writing to themselves, or writing for that matter. The stress levels have been now, they have been given some attention. ID, you didn't have the time for it. The only time you would unwind was driving back home, because it's a logger jam back home. You're just listening to music and doing what you want, talking to your best friend on the call. But now people are making sure they take time for themselves, doing those little things that they thought is not required, like giving some time to that plant on the balcony, or just going ahead with a small little hobby they had left back years back ahead. So these things are really coming back. I'm really happy to see that. Also, that now people are very active. You see everybody is now really concerned, taking those late night walks or early morning walks. Everybody's finding their own little time to do their bit. That's nice. It was really nice to see not just Delhi, but people from far away uh, cities and countries to call you back at this point of time, because um, I made a film long back. My first film is titled Ugly Red Lights You Left from the first light, because the left turn is free. So that film was metaphorically about the attitude and mannerisms we develop when we see there is a free left turn. So people start taking you for granted.
Mhm.
That's a left turn you can always take. And my second film I made after that film was a film called Pichli Red Lights Se Right. It's a film that talks about a cut that you've missed, and you don't go back to that long U-turn because you think it's just too far away. You just want to go forward. You want to go ahead. And I realized what I made in that film, and I saw what was happening to our lives. People went back that extra mile to say sorry, to say we love you, to say we care, to say we are there, and realizing that it's not necessary to go forward all the time. There can be times when you can just
Yeah.
stand still and be yourself.
You have a huge heart. I can just the way that you reach out to people, and going back to what you said about the parallel cinema, that you are really, and I think that to me is very appealing, to be talking about the common man, the common life. And that's, I wrote you that I was watching the television series Malgudi Days. Oh, I just love it. I love it because it's the real life, and uh, that's the kind of thing. You also mentioned when you first made your films that your hands were just, it's like, what have I gotten myself into? What am I doing?
Yes, filmmaking I think today is far easier than my father's times because you're working on film negative. You need a certain amount of skill sets to how to load a film on a camera, how to get the film developed, how to, in fact, film editing was not as easy. It was also a costly affair. Today, with the digital camera coming in, things are getting compact, things are getting easy. I can just be with my camera and walk through a street without getting noticed, without pulling a crowd. So I can be on locations. The light is now easy to capture because a film negative works with 10 times more light than the digital negative. So plus the crew has now shrunken. You can hold a like the ones that I have with me. You can have a wireless mic that I can put onto your collar, or like a shotgun mic I can put on my camera, and things are
Right.
easy. I can just vlog in the mountains holding a GoPro or something. Uh, so I'm really also working on a PhD around the whole topic of how amateur vloggers are using portable equipment to define a destination image. So people are
That
now traveling to far lands with no really hard-bound skill sets of filmmaking, no grammar of filmmaking, but they're developing their own grammar of handheld camera, the glitch, the cut, the shake, which is a new grammar in its own sense. And handholding their stories and talking through their tiny treks. So I'm trying to work a PhD around it. So what I've tried to felt in that time, if I compare the times of my father and the times where I started filmmaking, we have moved ahead in terms of technology, especially post production. Because in post production today, you have a lot of drag and drop filters. Things are not as manual. If you want to place a fade out or a dissolve or a superimpose, you had to manually do it. I'm just imagining in my father's time it was that more times tougher because you're doing with film negative. You can't just make a copy of a negative when you're in the editing room. But in today in digital times, you can just right click, make a copy, and go ahead.
what software are you using to do your film editing?
Ah, to give you a disclaimer, I always feel that softwares are going to keep changing.
They, oh,
Is
definitely.
the basics remain the same. The basics remain the same. But for the past 2 years, I've been using Adobe Premiere Pro.
Yeah.
But I've grown up on FCP. But the FCP, the Final Cut Pro recent version, has a lot of drag and drop mechanism or design, which for if I may say a much more professional approach is not too apt because you're going frame by frame. A keyframe, you're checking all your keyframes and cuts and all those layers. You're working in 10 layers, 20 layers. So I think the Final Cut Pro software version right now, 10 or 12 available right now, it's very good for people who are learning to edit because there's magnetic timelines, you can just drag and drop and work. But if you need more detailed work, Premiere Pro has a better interface.
That the reason I'm asking is because, well, I've spent the past year learning, or more than the past year, learning how to do audio editing and recording, and that's, the launch of the podcast. That was part of my trying to develop something new, creative in the year of COVID. But I'm also very interested in editing the films. Um, so I don't know what I'm doing when I'm editing the films. It's it's a new thing. What am I doing? I don't know. And so that's why I asked, could we record video, even though there may be a lot of glitches in it. It's just, it's an area that I want to explore as well.
I must tell you, editing is a very organic process. If I can see you smile, I will wait for those extra 2 seconds to have that smile on, and you get that instinct to have a cut.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll get on with all of that. It's very organic.
It's just a lot of fun, and I write also. So I when my day life, my is I have been working on COVID outreach for the past over a year. Never intended to do that, but um, but it's allowed me to do these other things. I don't want to talk about me, but you talked you talked about the things that ignite your senses. That just it's amazing that you have made. I think you said 18 short films and one film festivals. That your films are more conversational. Talk to me a little bit about the parallel films versus Bollywood, which is a lot of flash.
Yes, yes. If you see Bollywood, I don't think anybody has to be introduced to Bollywood in India. Bollywood and cricket, as they say, run in the blood. It's pretty much on the background. It's always there. It never stops running. You grow up. Uh, there's a song for every time in your life, as they say in Bollywood. Plus, Bollywood is the kind of fashion statement. It has always been. I think cinema all across the world has been that way. It has been feeding the masses with a very direct kind of a morality, and also very indirect kind of content is there, always there. So Bollywood, if I'd like to define, I would always say Bollywood has that quality to imbibe all different cuisines or recipes, and that's why I say that anybody can have appetite for Bollywood, because you'll have a little of drama, melodrama in it, you'll have a little action in it, you'll see a horror film where somebody's falling in love with somebody, very unnatural for a film student, because you're trying to write a very serious context, and suddenly you need a song there. Why do you need a song there? But I think that comes from the epics in India. If you see the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, the two strong epics which are influences of Bollywood. We had also studied that there are 5 influences of Bollywood in our college time. I'll get to that if you want. But
Yes.
Mahabharata and Ramayana have a very strong plot structure. So there's a story within a story, and the narration and the presentation of these epics over years have been vocal or verbal. So you have a verbal lineage of your grandmothers telling you small incidents about, or small mini stories within a story, and they'll probably one time they'll tell a lullaby to you. They'll sing it to you. So now you see the same content is now being sung to you. The same content, when you like it, you're watching a play at a temple in South India, you'll have a huge chorus or a narrator enacting it for you, or a huge get up of the Ravana or the antagonist of the epic, you know, presented in that manner. So the whole idea of having a narrator, in what in India we call the Sutradhar, uh, the telling becomes more important than the story. And that is where, when the telling becomes important, you're trying to just experiment with the cuisines and with the whole flavor of it. That is where Bollywood gets its masala, the word that they use. Masala means it is a mixed bag of so many things, you can't really define a genre for it. But when I was studying Bollywood and also seeing my father's films, I felt that these films had a certain production quality that they required. So to be in a Bollywood film, you are always in a situation which is larger than life. You're standing in the rain in a large wide angle camera. There's long violin playing in the back. That would happen to you in real life
No.
when you're sad. So I used to wonder, why doesn't this feel so real? And this is the times when I got addicted to the parallel cinema of India, which, like any other new wave around the world, got out of a movement that wanted to denounce the mainstream cinema. It didn't have the money for mainstream. It didn't have the audience for mainstream. So it started telling the stories that were really, really important. If they would not tell those stories would be dead. And they also started to make characters more real life, not very cardboard characters. Not everybody is a cop. Not everybody can punch 5 people in the face. Not everybody can sing around the tree. So the idea persona of the hero was now given a backseat, and you had a protagonist who was lifelike, who had the real life problems of India. And these parallel filmmakers were actually addressing problems of what India was going through. First, the partition, the whole divide,
Yes.
then the famine, similar casualties in India, but then the never dying struggle of the middle class, the working class of India,
Yes.
and their lives, of how they enjoy the little breeze when they walk on the seafront, or they're just having a small cone of beans and just having a little chit chat about life, and they see faces in the clouds, and that means everything to them. So that was a very, I would say, very beautiful way of storytelling that was trying to picture in these kind of films. And those times, I saw a few filmmakers, I got really inspired by them, and I started to write my own scripts and write my own ideas. And when you say talk about parallel cinema of India, which is also the middle cinema of India, it is not dependent on music. We'll not say that it doesn't have songs. It would have songs. Sometimes the songs are a dream or an abstract, a scene, uh, but the songs are not based on a certain publicity stunt, right? But when you make a Bollywood film, there are some essentials. You need to check some boxes. If you don't have a superstar song with a dance number, how are you going to attract the television audience? How are you going to attract the? So there are some obvious reasons why Bollywood has been that way. It has been that gala landscape, and there are some obvious reasons why parallel cinema or the middle cinema of India, very inspired from the Italian New Realism and buying some tricks from the French New Wave, the Nouvelle Vogue, uh, has made its way through. But today, we are very glad that the two streams are now coming together,
Good.
and you have very good content being told in a not very unreasonable way.
That's
So I like to make films about these things. Recently, I'll just keep it very short. We made a film about two strangers who don't know each other but wake up each morning having the same dream, right? So they get to meet in a party and they get to be friends with each other. So I've been writing on those lines of how to talk about films which are not really very, political movements or big things in society. We recently again made a film about three different strangers waking up at three mysterious locations one morning and wondering how they got there. It's like you waking up in your room, me waking up on a boat in the ocean, and both of us are wondering how did we get here. So apparently we had downloaded an app last night who was driven by Krishna, which is an Indian god,
yeah.
who drives you according to your karma, according to your deeds in life. He drops you to your destined locations according to what you've done in life. So I seem to be that person who never made those choices. I get dropped in the middle of the ocean, nowhere to go. You've been taking the right choices, you get dropped back home. So these are the kind of films that I keep writing, right? Three people waking up, meeting a taxi driver, wondering next day, was that a driver? Was that God who brought me back? I don't know. So I like to keep it open ended and enjoy it. I see life that way.
I think when I traveled in India, it was not with an air conditioned car and driver. It was not going to four-star hotels. It was traveling on, and most of the friends that I have who are Indian haven't traveled the way that I did. And that was on those third class sleeper trains with the benches and with like the windows all open and meeting people. And what happened was, I could get really irritated because I was projecting my own experience onto the situation. But then I found in talking with the fellow travelers, there was a spirit of generosity. No matter how poor someone was, there was just this incredible generosity and curiosity. Uh, like the little kids who are begging at the train station. Sometimes you can see a light in someone's eyes, a little boy's eyes, and my gosh, if this kid had an opportunity for education, he could become the CEO of a corporation. But just so when you talk about the nuances of life and what you're interested in, I think that to me is really a fascinating area, because just dealing with our day to day to dealing with the real problems of life, the real things that people go through, the struggles that everyone goes through. And you've alluded to that just a little bit. You've mentioned the difficult times. You mentioned taking off on your bike and maybe driving into the Himalayas. What did you say? I'm trying to remember. But just you've you have gone through your own struggles with, first of all, being the son of a filmmaker. And I know what it's like to work on a set. I know that it's all consuming. You know, it's a full day. I've worked on productions and for big films, not on really little films, but that was a long time ago, and I I had to leave Los Angeles because my parents needed help. They were both getting sick and dying, so I couldn't stay in LA. I had to come back home. But you've overcome those difficulties, and you've just continued to exude all of this positive energy. Uh, to me, it feels there's almost this magic quality to your life and what you're doing. It's very different to me from things in the States, in the USA. There's just the mysticism and magic of India is fascinating to me.
Back here, I would just plainly call it survival mechanism. You, yeah, because there's so much around you, and you also want to be part of so much around you. The never dying idea of, as people would like to say it, there is an Indian quote that says, हर एक आदमी में होते हैं 10-20 आदमी जिसे भी देखना कई बार देखना, which means whenever you see somebody, that person might have 10 to 20 shades. So you need to give it time. You need to look at that, ponder at that person those many times. Every time you see that person, you'll find a new side. So I
Well,
think that's the way India has probably reasoned with its culture.
I don't know. Tell me something. Is there anything that I really haven't asked you a lot of questions, but is there anything that you want to discuss that maybe I haven't brought up that you want to tell people who are looking or listening?
Yes, I really think that I started my life out with this whole um, big agenda of either being a filmmaker or a dancer at a big level. Uh, but I think time has shown me a lot. And today, when I look at myself, I've been trekking up to this mountain back in Himachal for about a decade now, and I've been wanting to make a film on this mountain. It's a very ordinary trek in India, and I have this feeling lately that the whole idea with being yourself, it comes to you after a certain time. It takes time for you to realize that you've been running so fast that you don't want to just sit under a tree in the afternoon and think about it. So I probably I'm in those that gray area for that moment, and just like waiting for Godot, it's Estragan and Vladimir sitting and having a conversation whether to go or not to go. Um, when I heard many years later that my father had he began his career in a Hollywood film. It was a film
Yeah.
called 9 Hours to Rama uh, by Mark Robson. I was wondering, can somebody uh, you know, as common as him, who's a nobody, who had no formal training in film, go out to Bombay, change a city, live there, get a family, live a dream, right, and still be content and happy about it. It takes a lifetime for all these things, and the whole point is that he was always so connected to people around himself, around him in a society. I really felt that I am doing that now in my classroom when I sit down with these young minds who are facing such tremendous stress,
Yeah.
such tremendous stress from the virtual lives that they're living online, because the glamour that Instagram and Facebook and all of these things can offer you, takes you to a high. And when that high is not that omnipresent in your real circle, when you shut down your laptop, it hits them very hard, and they're pretty young for it to handle it.
I understand what
So
you're
when I
saying.
I realize maybe I'm not going to do that big. I'm not going to be that big like my father. Move off to another city, make a film with a crew of 1,000 people, like huge stars working in my films. But what I really find interesting is still going ahead with my films, which are talking about these lives, because these lives also matter. And more than that, inspiring them to make films about themselves, or writing about themselves, or understanding what a photograph can be for eternity. And not just taking photograph because of the digital medium, you can take 20 in a click, right? And but also fall in love with the whole romance of what it used to be, probably in your times when you were shooting with the Kodak roll, and there was a lot of thinking that went behind everything,
Well, I did.
and a
I
lot of
used to.
patience,
Yeah, I used
and
to.
how we all fell in love with our albums, and we used to sit and show them to people who came to our houses. I think my phone and your phone today have a zillion images that we don't revisit or scroll down to,
Oh,
but the albums, yeah, that we have back in our houses, it's such a joy to sit together on a cold evening and sit and talk about it. And I really want to talk to
excellent.
them, and I find that very
Excellent.
intriguing to talk to these young and creative people of what they can do with technology, but also to draw the line where they stop being um, uh, dependent on it. Right? They also need to also realize that there has to be an off-screen time. And when they go out and play in the mud, and when they go out and cycle in the wind, and when they when they throw away their umbrella in the rain, that romance, or that is the real times you enjoy life.
Yes. Oh,
So I
that's
want to
so.
really, if I can say, if it's too early maybe, but I want to dedicate my life to this. And thankfully, I have a lot of people, a lot of friends around me who are really passionate for their art. And we always find time to sit together, and we make sure that we have a gathering every month, and we probably go for a small trek, pitch our little tents, sing in the open sky. We want to be connected to the nature. And very importantly, COVID has
Yes.
taught us the same thing.
Well, I think what you're doing is incredible and just so, it's a wonderful goal to be able to share that, especially with, as you said, with everything that appears to be so exciting on Instagram or with Facebook or whatever social media, but to be in touch with nature, to be in touch with oneself, to just enjoy life, enjoy the little things in life. And yes, I used to do. I was a newspaper photographer, and I did. I also had a dark room at one point and was doing art shows,
Wow.
and so, whoops, oh, back in the old days, the real old
I want to know
days.
what was it like. I'm sure it was with the cameras at that time.
Oh, I used a Nikon, a Nikon
Okay.
FTN. So
Okay.
and film, regular film. And I had studied in school with in the art department with a professor who taught me to look at contrasts with different, like light and dark, just with black and white photography, looking at something like lighting a green pepper, for example, or looking at texture, old boards, just examining that so that you're starting to see the detail in just ordinary things. But I digress again. Where can people, I'll stop talking about me and my life, but where can people find you online?
Oh, I've been playing smart on that. I'm not quite
Oh,
available at right now. I do have a place where I put a lot of my work, but most of that is hidden because I like to show my work to a lot of intimate audience, mostly my films. I like to put that across in film screenings. But
smart.
certainly, if you want it that way, I can send across some links of my films,
That would be
and
great.
yeah, I can do that. And most of my films, once I've made them, a lot of people tell me with me, it's never the product; it's always the process. I fall in love with them, and they're still going on in my head. Those characters are still moving, they're going places. So yeah, but I'm soon planning to launch a YouTube channel with the name of my father's banner, with the banner that he used in his production, which is named on me. It's called Vishesh Pictures. So I'm
Good.
gonna soon, yeah, I'm gonna soon put up a channel, probably on his birthday this year in September, and I'm also putting together a vlog on his life, a 4-part series on Bombay and cinema, and how my father, a really ordinary boy from Old Delhi, ran off to Bombay in a very filmy story, a very Bollywood kind of a story, made his life, and still date, he's so excited. If you, he's 77 today, and if you tell him we're going to watch a film, and he's ready before you are, he's at the car before you are, and he's very excited. So I think that is something that is that the love of cinema runs in him, that nobody can, you can't get in between those two things. So I'm planning to do something like that, and once I do that, I think it's a lot of responsibility putting up a channel. um, then you need to have a lot of content being generated and being posted regularly. But most of my content is for film festivals and for student films in my classroom. But yes, I'm planning to do that. Maybe in a year, or maybe this year, it's going to be out there.
Well, I think you're right about content. It's difficult when you're trying to do several things at once to deliver the content. And thank you. I just want to say thank you so much, Vishesh. This has been so much fun for me. Your energy just inspires me. And I really appreciate your taking time to talk with me. And I
Thank you. I'm very happy to speak to you, and I really hope we can host you back in India,
well, I
and
look
maybe
for,
we can sing and dance together.
I,
It'll be so
well,
exciting.
I actually did a little theater and a little dance.
Okay.
But I mean, it was so long ago. I don't know if my body can do it.
Oh, don't
Any-
worry. You can leave that on me.
okay.
Leave that to me.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Like I said, you just you inspire me, and you are a very wise person. You bring so much to this world. So keep making those films. Get that YouTube channel out there. I'm I'm very happy that you are going to do a story on your father, because I think in my experience, working on films was like running away to join the circus. So it is extraordinary. But you've experienced that too. So I look forward to seeing that, and I just want to say thank you. And I'm just really happy that somehow along the way we encountered one another. So thank you
Same
very
here,
much.
Anil. You're welcome.
I'll let you
Same here.
know when when the audio, when the podcast is getting ready to come up. And also, I'm going to stop the recording now. Let me just.
Same here, and you take care of your care.
Okay, bye
Take
bye.
care.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.